I'd love to get your perspective on what you see as the future role of the agency in a world that is definitely being reshaped by technology and tools and solution, as well as clients insourcing and doing their own thing. And that scoop of AI that changes everything. I'd love just to get your perspective as you think of yourself as you're an agency and network leader. What is that future that you see ahead? And how are you sort of navigating to get close to it?
It's a good question. I mean, I think one thing that I've realized, and I think this may normalize or maybe just become more consistent over time, is right now, depending on what client you're speaking to, and they could be a big brand, mid-sized brand, it's more about how they're set up internally.
Hmm.
Some of them need agencies more,
Right.
and others are trying to actually bring more in their own within their own walls, right?
Yeah.
I think for larger brands that are actually set up to do this already because they have the right level of infrastructure and organizational design, they're trying to bring as much media in-house as possible, right?
Yeah.
Because they're coming to a place where they don't necessarily need to start paying media commissions or fees. A lot of it they believe they can now do generally on their own. Um, Base level production and what I would call not even creative, but like that lowest kind of stream of content. We're
Hmm.
seeing some brands looking to bring that in-house, especially ones that
Yep.
already have in-house creative studios.
Yep.
And then others are like, I need to do more of this stuff faster, but I'm not even close to having the infrastructure to do it. So I need you guys to actually do more.
Right.
And I think that's the part that's hard to navigate because as we think about like, our plans for 2026 across the agencies in our network, those plans are actually different depending on the client that you're speaking to in terms of we almost feel like we have to be able to do everything right now because there's not really a clear view from our clients as to what they need us and want us to do.
Hmm.
The thing that is consistent, I would say, broadly speaking, is speed to market. Meaning most client organizations, because they're doing so many different things that we never even see or touch,
Hmm.
they don't have the bandwidth that we have to move quickly towards generative UI or even agentic search. Like to figure out these new areas that are business critical because the general consumer base is adopting these technologies faster than brands are.
Right.
They need, they really need agencies to do that. And we've spoken to across the network, I mean, some of our more sophisticated clients, the better marketers that we work with, and they're not capable or ready to do that. So they're really looking towards us. We had a meeting, and that goes for some of the platform-based e-commerce sides of the world
Mm-hmm.
that you might see coming from an agency like Barbarian, all
Hmm.
the way to the creative and content side from, an Iris or a McKinney, where our clients seem to be working with smaller, kind of very specific and focused AI companies to develop AI driven kind of baseline work or product focused work. We're showing them what we're doing. And we just had a meeting about this a couple weeks ago. And the reaction was, oh, geez, we've been working with another partner, a smaller partner that just specializes in this for 6 months. And what you guys just showed us is so far beyond where they are.
Right.
I didn't even realize that you were doing this. And I think that's the thing that agencies are set up generally and built to just do stuff faster.
Right.
And people have the passion and they want to learn and they just start making things. We're Cylinder, which is our production company in the network, we look at them as like they're very much a group of makers.
Right.
But I think all agencies are becoming makers, and we're just making the things, learning the technology. And as we're putting this technology, in today's world in front of clients, they're saying, "Oh, wow, okay, you're so far beyond where I was."
Yep.
But I recognize that the people who are trying to buy my product or service,
Hmm.
they're already expecting that I'm going to be doing this stuff tomorrow, and I'm not even close to that. So I think that again, that speed to market, that innovation experimentation, I think that's a big place where people on the client side will need to lean into agencies more than they have before. I also think there's the typical and more traditional ways, like, really smart brand campaigns that are going to move people, that are going to stop you in your scroll, that are going to get you to actually interact and pay attention.
Hmm.
That's a classic. Like that's why advertising agencies exist to begin with. I don't see any of that necessarily going away anytime soon. No matter what, Sam Altman or Zuckerberg might want to tell us.
Right.
And so I think it's this is the part where, because I'm an eternal optimist, I look at this as this is actually a great growth area.
Hmm.
Agencies aren't all gonna die overnight.
Hmm.
There's actually an opportunity for all of us to even get bigger by providing more services because our core services are largely still needed. And then there's
Hmm.
incremental services
Yep.
that the clients really need us to bring to them.
Yeah. Oh God, you so many so many things that you spoke about. I'm gonna try and pick a couple that I thought were like strategically right on point. I mean, it was all on point, but these are the ones that for me, I haven't heard in the way that you articulated it, which I think is fantastic. So thank you. The first you spoke about was consumer expectation, and the speed of that consumer expectation. Almost it sounded like speeding up brands, right?
Yeah.
And the brand sort of saying, "Oh my God, we got a gap. Like the market's over here, we're here." And maybe they thought their in-housing was going to be the answer, but actually that gap is they've realized they can't fill it, right? Um, talk to me about the opportunity that you see to fill that gap in terms of, is that about helping the client move closer so there's a level of autonomy that even agencies are helping to give clients? Because I don't know, that's the kind of work that should be in-house, or that's the kind of work that is helping the client develop their IP, like you're being good partners in this, if you will.
Yep.
Or do you see that as, no, that's an enduring space of opportunity that if we can get it right and, costed fairly, set up efficiently, et cetera, all givens, that's a role long term, that is a growth path for us. Like, how do you see that? What's the dynamic in that? Because it could go one of either way or other ways, maybe.
Yeah, it definitely can. I think so the easy answer is what you just said, which is it's going to go both, right? We're
Right.
going to see both things happen.
Yeah.
I think to start, it's going to be much more. It's going to happen on the agency side. It's going to have to be brought forward so that the speed to market is accelerated. If you think of generative UI and an e-commerce platform, for example, I think on the agency side, we're going to have to bring prototypes to the clients. We're going to have to educate them on why they have to think in this generative world.
Hmm.
And then I think if they recognize how critical this is for their the digital side of their business, they're
Hmm.
going to say, okay, well, you guys need to do this for us. And so I think we'll come in and start it.
Hmm.
In that world as a partner, I think the hope would ultimately be that, well, now once this is up and running, we're going to help educate you on how to maintain this, how to continuously keep this, now generative
Hmm.
website or app that you have,
Hmm.
keep it up so that as or client slash customer consumer behaviors change and adapt, you're able to make pivots, but we did the big lift for you. That's
Right.
that's potentially there. When you think of things like generative search, or once you can start just ordering stuff in the chat GPT interface and you never have to leave, right?
Hmm.
I look at that almost as um just search in general,
Hmm.
paid, owned, the whole thing. There are still many agencies that make a lot of money and provide a lot of value to clients by doing that. That hasn't come in-house,
Right.
in part because it's a it's an ever evolving um, capability. The algorithms are constantly changing. You have to constantly keep up on everything that's happening. And
Hmm.
so something as simple as agentic search,
Hmm.
you might want to in-house that, but I feel like that's something where brands are going to look to agencies to continue to drive that over time, just like for however long brands have looked to agencies for their SEM and SEO. Um,
Hmm.
so it's going to be a mix, but what it's probably going to do is you're going to see brands bring certain capabilities in-house that agencies typically got paid for, but it doesn't mean the agency is going to go down because I think they're going to have to add the new stuff on top.
Got it.
So I think it's going to be in-housing some of the traditional older stuff,
Hmm.
but then filling that bucket with the newer stuff.
Got it. Got it. So leveraging the agency's capability to really be like strategic fillers of that gap, that lag, if you will.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It kind of brings me on to a thought, which is something that you'll see in the look ahead, where as we were looking at the agency sort of spectrum, and we were saying, at one end, you've got agencies now almost kind of resurfacing as purveyors of technology, right? Almost like resellers, solution providers, kind of integrated selling solutions, but really technology focused, right? And at the other end, if you're going to be really stark, you've got agencies as creative business problem solutions, right? C-suite problem solvers. Yes, they have a certain aspect of technology, but it's kind of the strategic, creative problem solving that they're bringing, right? And then you've almost got like an in between, a third pot, which is like the new types of propositions. So innately technology driven, they scale differently. They're sort of modular network if they need to be, but they're essentially like very much on their specialism, right?
Mhm.
So whereas if you like, the solution provider, the strategic provider would put their hand in many different types of solutions or problems rather, this sort of new pod of agency is saying, no, we're specialists at this thing. This is what we do really, really well.
Yep.
I just wanted to get your take on does that resonate with you? And where would you pitch your network? And where do you think the demand and the opportunity will be in those types of? I mean, it's only three, they're probably a 3,000, but just to sort of bring a different voice to each of those areas. Like, do you identify with that? Do you see the Cheil network as part of any one of those areas? Or do you think maybe the magic is being able to be a bit of a chameleon as an agency? Like, I mean, that's what we've been doing for decades. Agencies
Right.
turn their
Right.
to many things. So how does that resonate when you hear that?
So I think you're 100% right. That is exactly what's out there, and I think where my head is the last comment you made, which is it's kind of how this has been happening for decades.
Mm,
There's significant inflection points, right, in the life cycle of any country, any business, any any endeavor that lasts for a long period of time.
mm,
And so I kind of look at this like, okay, there was advertising pre-internet, or
mhm.
at least I use that delineation point as high-speed broadband. So before high-speed internet was broadly accessible, so everyone could actually access the things equally,
Mm,
that was one phase. And I'm
mhm,
sure there are obviously phases before that. Um, and then suddenly high-speed internet became a thing that was broadly accessible. That changed advertising and media forever.
mm.
I mean, just like every couple of years, all the agencies are going to go out of business. Everyone said
Yeah,
everyone's going to go out of business. Somehow
yeah,
we managed to survive.
right.
And this is that next kind of high speed internet inflection point in my mind.
Mhm,
So to take an overly simplistic view of all of it, I just look at it and say, yeah, there's going to be full service, there's going to be technology companies that are on the agency side that are really powering what clients do because they own and understand the technology. To your
mhm,
point, there's going to be those specialists, but I think it's just like a helix, and it's just going
mm,
to come back together, and then something else will happen. And it's just going to keep going like that.
mm.
Because, I mean, back in the day, there were search only agencies. There
Right.
were
Remember that? My gosh.
right, there were social only agencies. Like,
Right.
and now there's still some, but by and large, that's just not enough because you're
Right.
looking at a more holistic customer experience.
Mm,
So and I remember when I was at Ogilvy when search really became like a big thing that clients were spending a lot of money on,
mhm,
and we had a search agency within the media arm of Ogilvy,
mhm,
and the view at the time was like, no one else knows how to do this. This
mhm,
is
mhm.
like sorcery, like it's not even English. Like, thank God we have these people who know this, right?
Right. Right.
And then not long after that, it was like, oh my God, anyone can do this, right? And this should just be a strategic part of a full media framework. Um,
Mm,
and I think we're going to see a lot of that happen. So,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
today, I'll just use Barbarian as another example.
Mhm.
So they're doing a ton with generative UI,
Okay.
and it's really impressive work, and it's being presented to clients all across our network from
Mhm.
all the different agencies because they're the only ones doing it. They have a specialty right now.
Right.
That specialty is not going to last 10 years, right? So I think we're just going to see a lot of this in and out. And so much of our industry just goes back to how is the client structured? What is the view of the CMO, senior marketer, or CEO, whoever's involved in these, partnership conversations?
Mhm.
And what do they need or what do they think they need? Like that's the crazy thing about our industry to me.
Right.
Like our media agency, Attention Arc, in my career of working with media agencies, and obviously I'm biased in saying this, but I really believe it. They're the smartest, best media agency with the best underlying technology, with the best view of how to use media to grow a business, to sell things
Hmm.
that I've
Hmm.
ever been exposed to.
Mm.
So in my head, they should have 100,000 clients, but they
Right.
obviously don't because exactly what they do is maybe not exactly what every client believes they need. And that's just the way of the world, right? Like, we've both run different agencies over time. And, I'm sure you're sometimes as surprised as I am, where sometimes you go in to try to bring something to a client because you're like, oh, I know they're going to want this because at my last agency, every client wanted it. And then you're like, wait, why does no one want it? I don't get it because
Right.
it ultimately is so specific.
Right. Right. No, 100%. And so there's that gives rise to me thinking about your business model, right? So as you look at things that are more general in terms of solutions and these specialisms being part of that, or as you look at these moments, these windows where, generative UI, you got an opportunity, right?
Yep.
Do you almost make that a line of business and you just, you're in growth mode, right? So you've got two different business models. You don't need to discriminate between the two. I'm
Yeah.
channeling my best Joe at the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm excited at the opportunity because I'm like, I'm going to play both fields, right?
Yeah.
But that's a business model discussion because you got to be ready to play them. You got to know how to cost them. Maybe the costing's very different. Maybe one is on generative UI because it's so new. You can go to much more of an output based model, right? Outcomes based model
Yep.
because the client knows there's value there. You can show what that value is, and then you put a price tag on it, right? And it's a different way than your more broad solutions where you're giving them much more of a breadth of your capability. So it's exciting. Are you thinking about like does your business model discussion internally touch on some of these things where you can do things differently? Not wanting you to disclose what obviously you're not comfortable with, but just in terms of just how your business and your leadership team and yourself are thinking about the opportunity and how you monetize.
Yeah, I mean, you just had the conversation that we had a week ago,
Okay.
because 100%, there's a number of these things across the different agencies in the network. But if
Right.
we just stick with generative UI, I
Yep.
do believe this is a point in time. I do
Mm.
believe that what we've been doing is is much further advanced than what I've seen, around me. And so, and honestly, we've presented to some pretty big clients, CMOs, very
Mhm.
experienced people who have said, okay, no one else is really bringing this to me or with this level of sophistication and polish and
Mhm.
plan to implement.
Mhm.
So exactly, I look at that and I'm like, okay, this is bang. This is an approach to 2026. This is going to be a clear um, a clear thing that we're going to market for
Mhm.
ourselves and all the things you mentioned. We have to know, therefore, how do we price it? Because it is different.
Mhm.
What is the kind of level of effort and what do we need from the clients to be able to create something like we just showed them in a prototype that we
Mhm.
were able to do on our own without any,
Right.
client politics or
Right.
org structure challenges.
Right. Right.
So the answer is yes. The hard part
Mm.
is but wait, but that's not the agency, right? Like that's actually not barbarian. It's just something they're really good at.
Right.
But it's not like of all the people who work barbarian, that's what everybody there does. And that's
Yeah.
not even what initially they're known for. So that's the challenge. And I think a lot of agencies are going to run up against this is like you start to realize, ooh, we're really good at this thing.
Yeah.
We should go tell people, and either the challenge is you're going to cannibalize the other parts of your business,
Right.
or no one's really going to take those meetings because they're like, oh, but you guys don't really do that though. Right? Like,
Yeah. I didn't know you could do that. Like,
yeah, yeah. And
right.
so some of the AI creative work that McKinney showed in a meeting I referenced earlier, everybody knows McKinney is a creative agency. They've been around
Mhm.
for close to 6 decades, and that's what they are.
Mhm.
But you don't think of, you don't naturally think of technology
Mm,
driving creative for McKinney. You
right.
think of storytelling and the bigger order kind of Super
Yeah.
Bowl commercials and this and that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's why this client who knows McKinney really well was so surprised because they don't think of that inherently
Right.
as, oh, this is part of McKinney's ecosystem is using technology to develop creative.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, even though you've got this little thing, back
Mm,
to your world of like kind of these three areas.
mm,
If you're in that area of you started here, this is what you're known for, this is what you're scaling,
hmm.
people will believe that. You know,
Right.
you've got all the examples you have are that it's that makes it a little easier than trying to do this inside a more holistic
Yeah.
agency.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. I mean, I suppose the other thing as well that goes with that is talent, right? Like how are your people perceiving all the plays that maybe you as an agency owner, you're looking at growth and opportunity in the moment, but you've got a whole world of people behind you who are that's not us, that is us, identifying or not, opting in, opting out. Are you finding in this time the talent dynamic of the business is more challenging, less challenging? What are you seeing, hearing, feeling from a people standpoint? Because there's so much talk about the tech, and we know the tech is great,
Yep.
and we love the tech, but you spoke about ideas and storytelling and moving markets through, like just that work that we know has got that human touch. How are you finding the people, your people, are responding to this moment where you can make some business decisions that they may not identify with? You can pitch up and package your proposition in a way that maybe isn't fully you, but it is you because you've got a
Hmm.
specialism. And then what about what we've always done? Are we forgetting that? Like how's the talent dynamic behind some of these decisions that maybe you're going through? I'd love to just hear a bit about that.
You know, it's much better at this point in the year than I thought it would be
Okay.
because in the first 6 months, generally speaking, it was the reactions and responses to, we're going to start doing this in your agency and we're now going to start, our internal systems are going to function differently because of this. And this is what clients are asking for, so we're going to have to respond to it. It was mixed results in terms of how
Mhm.
people individually were reacting.
Mhm.
Obviously, you had the whole and still probably do the conversation of AI is going to take my job. And
Mhm.
again, when you have bigger, high profile technology leaders saying no one's going to need an agency anymore, right?
Mhm.
They're just going to come to us and they're going to use our AI capabilities.
Mhm.
Those, I mean, to be quite honest, those kind of sweeping, bold statements are pretty dangerous because
Mhm.
they don't actually encompass the 14,000 agencies in the US, right? There's a subsegment that maybe are going to be in a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of this just became, that fear-based narrative, and
Mhm.
I think one of the words of the year, phrases of the year, just came out as rage bait. Like that is just what we all
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
gets clicks, gets attention.
Yeah.
Some of it's true, some of it is just kind of really blown up, blown out of proportion.
Mhm.
That was all happening in the first 6 months of the year. I think as we started to really bring AI and all of these new technologies into our learning and development agendas across the agencies, I
Mhm.
think people started to realize the value that this would bring to their job. I also
Right.
think, at least in our network, we're now a year into these conversations being at the forefront, and we didn't do some massive layoff, right, across the network because suddenly people's jobs are irrelevant. We're
Mhm.
upskilling them so their jobs don't become
Okay.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
I think that has now shifted the perspective and how people are reacting and responding. One of the best things truly that we did in the last few weeks, which first went into McKinney and then is going to get rolled out across the other agencies,
Mhm.
was the AI training that the 4As led.
Okay, great.
That received such incredibly positive feedback in kind of the post survey. 100% of the people who did the training said it was worth their time, which you
Brilliant.
don't often get with any sort of training. But I
Yeah.
think that's where we're starting to see the shift of, okay, I might still be scared, but maybe I'm not a little less scared about it taking my job.
Mm.
maybe still scared about like the Terminator situation, but I can't do anything about that.
Right.
But it's not going to take my job outright, but it will make me irrelevant if I don't learn it. And I think that's where we're starting to get some of this uptake.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great
the
to
other
hear.
thing that's helped is we built some of our own stuff earlier in the year and last year, but some of the off-the-shelf solutions are just getting better and better. So it's much easier to bring whether it's LLMs or or visual models and other kind of AI components, the worlds of like have ChatGPT look at my last five client presentations and tell me,
Right.
what's different about them.
Yeah.
Like people are starting to realize that this is so helpful to help them free up
Mhm.
their minds to think bigger
Mhm.
that I think we're now starting to see momentum across I would say most people in the agencies in our network.
Got it. No, that's super helpful. And I think as you think about your network, right, and as you think about upskilling, and now people are taking a beat and actually allowing themselves to breathe and see at a personal level opportunity, right? Because to your point, rage bait was real, and it's like, I'm just going to push back because that's just not going to be good for me, right?
Yeah.
And now they see, you go through, some training and some upskilling, and you see that those skills that you have are transferable, and suddenly your team are feeling, they've got that beat, they've got that ability to look up and look out with you. I suppose the question that I want to end on, or at least one of the last ones, is so what does that give you in terms of your outlook for the business, where you see the real opportunity, where you see that, there is, there are these pathways for you and for your network. How are you bringing your people along for that ride to really understand? There's conventional wisdom that says, yeah, but all these machines are just going to automate a bunch of the work that we would do, and we're not going to do the high value. But you just said, you use these tools in a way that is really constructive. It can give you that space. So
Hmm.
does that give you more as a network leader, more ambition? Does it give your key people and you setting them different, different agendas of realizing that ambition? Does it allow you to go into your clients at a different level? Like, what is that? Where do you just, strategically, philosophically, and just ambition wise, where are you going to take that? Give us a bit of a window into that.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes back to I said this some point a little earlier this year in a Drum article that my view of the agency of the future is an operating system. And
Hmm.
that's what I think actually is going to create higher order opportunity, not drag us down. Because I think it's the most exciting thing in my career to be able to say, because of this technology, we can build these self-fulfilling operating systems that can take what's in market, analyze it, help us rethink the media side of it, help us rethink the content side, even help us build some of those assets, help us deploy those assets, track those assets, and then do it all over again and create that virtuous circle. That virtuous circle is something we've all talked about, but
Hmm.
at least from what I've seen, no one has really ever built it in a way where it's transportable.
Hmm.
I think this allows you to create your own version of an operating system as an agency based on your philosophy, based on how you think consumer demand works,
Hmm.
consumer experience works. And then you have this portable operating system where more of the base level tasks
Hmm.
are automated, right? And maybe you don't get paid as much as for those, but that's okay because
Hmm.
you're going to make up that margin being up here.
Hmm.
Agencies, I say this in every pitch, we are unique because there are two things that we do. We work across so many different brands and categories and
Yeah.
products and services that we understand what is happening in the world, right? I think this is actually a 4A stat that um, the broader advertising and media industry contributes to like something like 25% of the US GDP.
Yeah.
That's
20%.
because we have our hands in everything.
Hmm.
And so we're moving markets if you really step back and look at it at a macro level.
Hmm.
The other thing, which is in doing that,
Hmm.
we know how people work and
Hmm.
think and live better than any client ever can
Hmm.
because we're combining these data sets and we're combining these experiences across industries and categories and age groups and demographics and psychographics. That's where this operating system I think is so exciting. And
Mm,
I really think it's agencies that need to create these.
mm,
And then, whatever, I don't know if it's a SaaS model at some point or an outcome driven model, but it'll change the dynamic of our financials. But that's the piece that then I think allows us to continue to push and help clients go further faster.
mhm. Yep.
We're going to automate some of the stuff we don't want to necessarily spend all of our time doing, but we're going to create a system, not just pockets of things, an actual interlocked and interconnected system that can help move a client's business forward. So that's the exciting part to me.
Mm,
The other piece, which kind of played into my optimistic view of the world generally,
mm.
this is from Nick Law. He said something earlier this year to the effect of technologists make the things, it's creatives that develop the nomenclature for those things. So, and one of the examples he used, I'm probably going to botch this, was the first versions of a camera. They
Okay.
were very utility. They were technology. They were created. They were functional. It wasn't art until creatives made it art. And so
Right.
his
Right.
view is, which I share, is there are technologists who are making these things that we're all using,
Mhm.
but the value of them, where they're going to actually impact people's lives in the world and our business, that's for the creative people to decide. And
Yeah.
that's not been decided yet. And so I think that's the really exciting piece.
Yeah, that's a lovely thought, actually. It's a really lovely thought. It's the application of, it's the adoption of, and it's the bringing the humanity of what those tools or platforms or tech, what it does.
Yeah.
So the camera becoming art and photography and all those things, brilliant. Look, one last question then. You've got so much knowledge, you're seeing so much, you're doing it at scale. It'd be remiss for me, not to ask you for the one piece of advice that you would give the future or the next generation of agency leaders to best prepare and take advantage of the future of our industry. What's that piece of advice that you'd give?
I mean, what I'm saying right now, number one, is don't panic
Mm,
because I think if people go into a panic mode,
hmm
they're going to make snap decisions that they're going to regret.
hmm
And, you know, uh, the metaverse was a thing for about 5 minutes,
Right.
but that didn't stop agencies from coming out as like, we're now the metaverse agency.
hmm
And then it just went away because the underlying technology to actually participate broadly with clients in a metaverse environment just didn't exist, right?
Right, right,
And what we're talking about today with AI is all real, but again, the applications haven't really been fully understood.
right, right.
And if agency leaders feel like they need to move at the speed that this technology is moving,
hmm
my firm belief is they're going to make mistakes.
hmm
I think it's consistency and thoughtfulness and calm. Like calm
hmm
right now in terms of not just like, I mean, the world could use some calm, but just as agency leaders, how
Yep,
we
yep,
think and how fast we think we have to move,
yep.
I think it all needs to get actually pulled back a little bit. And, you know, having led an agency through COVID is probably what has kind of taught me this,
hmm
because
Yeah,
that was literally like,
that
wait,
was
the world might end, like
right.
literally might
That
end.
was a whole level of existential
Right.
thinking. Yeah, very
And
well said.
and and that was, we got through it and that's obviously a different scenario, but
Yeah.
it, you kind of have to move at your pace. I think that's really my number one thing. You can't ignore all of this. That would be foolish, obviously,
Mhm.
but you really do have to move at your own pace and you have to learn and really live into what the strengths are of the agency or agencies
mm
that you're leading because
mm
not everyone can do everything and that's completely okay. Again, I go back to like we talked about in the beginning.
mm
There's going to be pockets for everybody, right?
Right, right.
You can't ignore LLMs and so on because that would be like ignoring the internet when it started, right?
mm
Be like, ah, I don't have to
Yeah,
deal with that.
right.
But you don't have
There
to
were a
do all,
few. There were a few.
and you're right. You're right. But you don't have to do all the
Yeah,
things.
yeah. Yeah.
I think that's kind of, again, just that
Mm,
view of like the calm,
mm,
really thoughtful approach. Like, don't worry too much about what's happening around you. I think that's the other thing as agencies, because we're often very competitive people if you're on the agency side, because client service industry are constantly out there and pushing.
mm,
But I think we worry too much about what each other's doing
mm.
and not just like, I have what I have,
Right.
and this is what I'm going to focus on.
Hmm. Got it. So calm, um, understanding there are pockets of opportunity that will continue to manifest, and the value of the agency will endure as it has done at many other points.
Yeah.
Fantastic advice. Fantastic advice. Joe, listen, it's all, I mean, honest, genuinely, it's always a pleasure to chop it up with you and discuss because I always get the nuggets. And this has been no different. I want to thank you on behalf of everyone who's going to read some of these insights that you shared,
Thank you.
on behalf of the team, for being a great member, for being an important member of the national board. Always a pleasure. So I want to thank you for that. It's been great talking.